Okay, great. Hi, Jennifer. Can you give us an update?
Yes, hi, Dana. We have reports we've just confirmed with U.S. officials that airstrikes have begun against Iranian targets. Iranian state media is reporting that those strikes are being carried out on Keshem Island. We heard those strikes yesterday at about this time. The same sort of airstrikes began. Keshem Island, Manab, Sirik. These are all port and coastal areas where the U.S. was taking out air defenses and radar systems just yesterday. Right now, we can say that Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, was down at CENTCOM headquarters where he was being briefed by Admiral Brad Cooper this afternoon about potential targets. Earlier in the day, the president indicated and telegraphed that the airstrikes were likely to begin again tonight. Secretary Hegseth told reporters who were traveling with him that, in fact, the U.S. is willing to negotiate with bombs if need be. And shortly thereafter, the airstrikes began. We can expect to see, I think, over the next few hours, a number of new targets hit inside Iran. Earlier today, Qatari negotiators were sent to Tehran to try and convince Iran's leaders to get back to the talks, to agree to the terms that the U.S. had been discussing. Those negotiations have been stalled. Now, I think the feeling is that another night of airstrikes may bring the Iranians back to the table. But the last few weeks and since the ceasefire have proven to be very frustrating. And there has been, as officials have described to me, less a ceasefire and more of a less fire. Earlier today, we know that the U.S. military also disabled a second oil tanker that was trying to make its way to an Iranian port. This was a Palau-flagged ship. It's the second day in a row that they've done so. They've fired using precision munitions into the engineering cabins and the steering section of those oil tankers. We also learned from the president earlier today that over the course of the last few weeks, over 100 million barrels of oil have been escorted through the Strait of Hormuz by U.S. Central Command. That had been a secret up until now. Iranians had not been able to see those oil tankers moving through in the cloak of darkness under CENTCOM's watch. So a lot happening right now. We expect another busy night for U.S. Central Command. And what was so unusual today and earlier today was hearing both the president as well as Secretary Hegseth telegraphing that these airstrikes were about to begin. I can never remember in the past when the U.S. has said when the bombing was going to begin. So clearly this is designed to pressure the Iranian leaders to get back to the negotiating table. Dana.
All right. Did you have anything? Anybody else have a question for her? If not, let me ask you one more. So when it comes to the last several weeks, or I guess 8 weeks, we know, obviously, we have eyes in the sky. We can see what they're doing. So do you think that these targets are more about taking out some of their remaining military capabilities, or does it go to power plants and bridges as truthed earlier today?
Well, we heard from the president that the next step in the escalation ladder would likely be bridges, electrical plants, infrastructure. It's not clear to me at this point what the targets are. Some of the sites that we've heard that explosions began earlier, just a few minutes ago, those are some of the sites where there were radar defenses that were struck last night, radar installations. The reason you would go after those first is so that U.S. warplanes could get in closer. And so it's surprising that the Iranians, frankly, still have any air defense systems after those first 38 days of bombing by the Israelis and the U.S. military. But it does show just how resilient the Iranians are. And we do know from leaked intelligence reports that have reported broadly in the press that the Iranians were able to keep about half of their ballistic missile supply as well as their mobile missile launchers. And so that's been a great frustration for the U.S. military and for Israel that many of those mobile missile launchers survive. They retreat back into mountains and then pull them back out. Also, those drone launchers. So I imagine they're going after a lot of those sites, and we'll just have to see whether they've expanded that to actual infrastructure.
Great. Jennifer, thank you so much for the quick update.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.